Hello to YouTubes and hello to Facebook. Give me just a second. Let me click this button on Instagram. Come on, Graham. Really? Oh, Instagram. Whatever. All right. Anyway.
Fine be that way.
Yep. Wait. Too loud. Too loud. There we go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Person Behind the Pages, the show where we get to know the creators that makes the things we love. Today is going to be a little bit different. If you've been watching the show the last few months, you know that I talk to a lot of science fiction and fantasy authors, but that's not all. If you've watched the episode, you know that that's not all. I've talked with some other folks out there, someone that's involved with an organization called Right Hive, someone that's a streamer for StarCraft 2. Today I'm talking with an author, but not a science fiction fantasy author. I'm going to talk to an author that wrote about those that lovely dog and lovely kitty right behind you. Hi, Katie. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you for joining me. So,
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
yes. So, Katie Kibort-Gibbons, you wrote a children's book. A little bit before we, I love it. I want to tell our audience a little bit about you, kind of get a bit of an introduction.
Sure.
You are, have been a professional therapist for many years, and you kind of specialize in working with families that were dealing with different stages of adoption.
Right.
You also are an adoptive parent yourself, and
Right.
were adopted as a child. And of course, being a therapist, you ran your own private practice, you ran your own business.
Mhm.
But at some point you were thinking, you know what? I wish that I could sort of bring my help to a bigger audience than just sort of the one-on-one of doing therapy. And I think that was the point that you decided to write the book. Is that about right?
That is about right. You summed it up. Yes. I
Yeah.
I did all the things. Did all the things with therapy. But yeah, I'm an adopted person
Mm-hmm.
and I adopted my kids. I've always had this desire to provide something for adopted kids and in terms of a children's book, especially when I was reading books to my own kids
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of saw this need for the viewpoint of the adoptee, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, through I specialized in adoption, worked with a lot of adopted kids, a lot of adopted parents. And yeah, it just kind of last year was born. It just happened and I got it
Nice.
written.
Yep.
And yeah, here we are, published author. It's amazing.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah,
So can we see the cover of the book again? Can you hold that up? I'd love to see it.
sure. I happily.
Right.
Here's my guys,
Yep. The Adventures of Bandit and Pablo. We are
Bandit and
brothers.
Pablo.
Yes. So, and how did you decide on Bandit and Pablo, huh?
Well, they are my pets, and everyone's adopted a pet at some time. So
Right.
it was an easy place to go with adoption. And
Mm-hmm.
also because there's so many types of adoption between private and foster care and international. I wanted to make something universal that it didn't matter the avenue of adoption. It just mattered that you are adopted.
Right.
So animals were it, and I mean, how cute are they? You can't get
Yes.
cuter than Bandit and
You
Pablo.
can't. You
So
can't.
it worked. It worked perfect.
I love that you got a little Bandit and Pablo like around on your shoulders there.
I do. I do.
Right?
These are like 3 foot tall cutouts. And when I do classroom readings, I take them and write, hello to
Yeah.
the classroom. And yeah, kids love them. They love
Love
them.
it. Love it. That's so cool.
So I
Yeah, I
thought I'd
think
bring them today to our podcast.
yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Uh, um, I think it was so smart too that you went with pets because, like you said, not only kind of is that a way into adoption that's sort of universal, but it's also, I mean, what kid doesn't like cute animals? Like it's nice
Right.
to
Right.
almost kind of cartoonify it in that way, in a nice way.
Exactly.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about like this journey that you've gone on. So you had the idea for writing a book, and how many pages is the whole book?
Uh, I
Like
believe
30
it's
something?
24
Yeah, 24. Okay,
spreads.
perfect.
So, it's
Yeah.
like 1 and 2, the spread.
Uh-huh. Yep. So it kind of took, you had the idea, and then it kind of took a while to kind of figure out what you're going to put on every page. Because, again, as a kid's book, you don't have that many words to work with. So you
Yeah,
want to make sure you get it right, right?
right.
And then where did you kind of go from there?
Well, I'll kind of, being an author now, I can speak to this. I'll tell you about just my writing process because
Yes.
I knew I wanted it to kind of be sing-songy and fun that a kid would enjoy reading and listening to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sat I just sat with Google Voice to Text and just kind of started telling the story because I knew
Nice.
I wanted it to be something about we became brothers, we were adopted, we both are, and I just kind of started putting out it, just out loud. I do better talking than writing anyway, of just like verses or scenes or situations. And then I would look on Google, okay, what rhymes with that word? Okay, I need a different word.
Yep.
And I mean, it took me an afternoon to get my just shitty first draft done. It's like
Sure.
just get that done, I'd have something to work with. So
Yeah.
it took me about, an afternoon to do that. And then it was a matter of the pages and the page breaks. And I knew I didn't want page, words, words. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted scenes. I wanted the spread to be a picture that told the story.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it took me a while to kind of I had an idea of breaking it up on a storyboard of what those words would be. Then I found an amazing illustrator, Kelly O'Neill, amazing illustrator. And then she's like, "Well, what about this?" And then with her pictures, it's like then there's another draft of okay, let's move these words here and this all on one page. So it's definitely a process. Definitely
Right.
a process.
That's awesome. That's funny too. As you know, and probably some listeners know, I'm working on a novel, which is a bit of a different beast than a
Right.
children's book. But I have found that the dictation for that first draft is really helpful too. So it's funny how that relates. But um, yeah, that's pretty cool. Finding that. How did you find your illustrator, and what was the process? What like working with that, and how did you feel the first time you saw the illustration of Bandit and Pablo?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll start with finding the illustrator. So I did what any novice to this field would do. I took to Facebook groups, children's author groups, Googling how to find an illustrator. I didn't know anything, knew nothing. And I believe you and I even talked a little bit about, early on some of that stuff. So I found it came down to like two freelance sites, and Fiverr is one and Upworks is one. And I just liked the setup of Upworks. I liked how the site worked. I liked their legal side, the contracts and everything. So I really, it's like you put your, posting out there to sell it. Like I need an illustrator for a children's book about adoption and I want it to be animals. So I'd like somebody who has experience drawing animals versus people. Um, Kind of just shared, that it's going to be the first in a series, which it is. It's going to be the first in a series, working on book number two. And I just kind of put it out there. And the next morning, I had 48 responses
Oh my
to it.
gosh.
And I was like, whoa, I mean, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So I really went by portfolio because I had in my mind what I wanted it to look like. I
Mm-hmm.
knew I wanted it to be not too cartoony, kind of realistic, but also childlike, so you
Right.
do need that cartoon. I wanted vibrant colors and so I went by like their portfolio and I saw Kelly's and it's like that's it. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly the style that I'm looking for. So I messaged her, it didn't take long for us to kind of go back and forth. You already put like an idea of price and all that in there. So within a
Mm-hmm.
week, she was working for me. And it probably took 2.5, 3 weeks to get those first sketches. I sent her pictures because they're my actual pets. So I sent her a bunch of pictures of Bandit and Pablo and them together and them and, their crazy situations. And oh my gosh, she captured them perfectly. I wept. I mean, I sobbed when I saw those first sketches because it's like, this is real. This is really happening.
Right.
And every step, the colored pictures with text, the cover, like every step has just been amazing. So
Nice.
happy with it.
That's super cool. Um, okay, so this is the first book in a planned series. You said you're already working on the second book. Tell us a little bit about kind of like what's happening with Bandit and Pablo in this book, and what kind of the vision is for future books, and how
Sure.
this like relates with adoption and all that.
So my first book is The Adventures of Bandit and Pablo, We Are Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted the first book to be heavy on the fact that they're adopted, that they are adopted and now they're brothers. So
Mm-hmm.
we came from different places, now we're together, which is really based on my sons because they are brothers, adopted, not related, but they really mimic the personalities of Bandit and Pablo in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wanted that first book to really drive home the point that hey, we're adopted, we're brothers. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're happy. That's okay. All of that's okay because we're family and we're brothers.
Yeah,
So that's really
yeah.
like the first book. But in my series, I don't want it all to just be adoption, adoption, adoption. I've laid the foundation that they are adopted. So for the next books, I want it to be more adventures that pull in themes that adopted kids can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so just some little snippets, a big issue with adopted kids is they don't always look like their family. Their family that they're brought into, they feel different because they don't look the same. And how do you deal with that? Well, in one of the books, Bandit and Pablo meet a little family of rabbits that has a squirrel in them. And so that book, while their adventure is kind of through the woods, it touches upon this concept of how do you handle that? You're in this family where you look different. So that's kind of the purpose of it. Hitting themes that through therapy I've dealt with real live adopted kids and adoptive parents, and putting it in a way that is not heavy. It's not this emotional, heavy trauma stuff. It's light and
Yeah.
cute
Yeah.
and happy. And that's just exactly what I'm going for.
I love that so much. I love the idea of the squirrel and the bunny family and being able to show it that way. That's so cute. And of course, yeah, you're drawing on your own like professional experience. I love that too about these stories. But then, in addition, you're also drawing on your own personal experience. So
Right.
you were adopted. I think you were adopted when you were young. How old were you when you were starting to have some of the sort of more challenging conversations and starting to kind of ask questions and that sort of thing?
Sure. I was adopted as a baby,
Uh huh.
brand new baby, Don't remember any of that, but I always knew I was adopted, always knew. So my parents celebrated it from day one. It wasn't, and this was in 1970. I'm old. So
Hmm.
back then, sometimes people didn't share it. It just was handled very differently than when I adopted my boys, and even today.
Hmm.
So yeah, I was adopted. I always knew I was. The positives I drew from that is I was never made to feel less or different or anything. The negatives I drew from that, and I hate to say negatives because I had a wonderful life and family, but it wasn't anything I could talk about. It was scary to my adoptive parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it was a lot of, oh my gosh, what if she meets her family and leaves us? What if she, lots of fear.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't adopted, so they didn't understand. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a big driving piece for me that when I adopted my kids, obviously I'm adopted, so I could relate to them differently. But it was important to me that they felt comfortable to talk about anything, even if I didn't understand or didn't experience it. And I really want that to be in this book series where, it's okay to talk about. It's not scary. It doesn't have to be scary when you give your kids a voice, even if you don't understand as a parent. And so that, just was a lot of my experience that I brought forward to then kind of interpret into this book, so to speak.
Right. Right. I love that. Yeah. And that, like, I think it's kind of the whole kind of concept behind the book, the whole book series, is to sort of not be afraid of these conversations, right? And to be
Right.
like, and start a conversation. I mean, 'cause the target audience for these books is pretty young, so they might not, I mean, they're obviously still developing, right? But
Right.
they are old enough to have questions, and the idea is to just sort of spark that and be open to it, and not the books don't even necessarily lead the conversation. They're just like, if anything, they're just saying like, we know that there's, things like the squirrel and the rabbit family, right? There's some questions, and it's okay,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Right. And I mean, truth be told, this is a picture book.
Hmm.
And we all, we read to our kids when they're little, and we get a lot out of the book too, because we're the ones reading it. So there's a psychoeducation piece in these books for parents. As they're reading to their kids are relating to Bandit and Pablo being adopted and becoming brothers.
Hmm.
But my hope is they're reading it kind of realizing, oh, my child might feel this way sometime and it's okay. My child might feel this and that's okay. So I'm hoping, complete picture, that the kids relate to the characters, but the parents relate to the book and the message it's trying to send.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you know the cartoon Bluey, but it's quite popular with the very young kids now,
Yeah,
and I feel like I like the show at least as much as my 3-year-old daughter does.
I've heard that from parents with young kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel you. Yep. It's nice that we can kind of get drawn into. Um.
Right.
Cool. So previously you were, a therapist, and you specialized a lot in working with families going through adoption. Um, can you talk a little bit about like some of that work, and then how some of that is like really informing the stories that you're telling now?
Yeah, sure. It's always great for me to be able to say to a child client who's coming to me because they're struggling being adopted, or there's something going on in the home centered around their adoption. The minute I say, hey, I'm adopted too, their face changes. Like everything just changes. It's that instant relevance. And even though my kids are adopted, there's so many different ways and avenues to become a family that I
Hmm.
try not to assume I know everything just because I'm adopted and my kids are adopted. So
Right.
I've
Sure.
really learned so much from my clients of some issues are universal. I felt them as a kid, 50 years ago. They feel them now. So some of those are universal. Some of them are newer to just the world today, just how society is and fitting in. And there's a lot more adopted kids in school, in social groups than I mean, it was really like me and one other person in my high school class. So it just those type of themes have really kind of helped me with writing something that everybody can get something out of or everyone can relate to. And that definitely will be seen in other books as I kind of draw the story more into adventures versus just adoption.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Um. Okay. I want to get into kind of talking about like you as a person, get behind the pages a little bit more. Before we get
Yeah.
into quite that, I want to also mention that you are going to have an upcoming podcast soon. Can you tell us about that?
I am hoping to. I am hoping to. And so, in doing this, the book and the ideas of a podcast, if I can speak a little freely just about my
Of
thought
course.
and creation of all of that, when I look at books on adoption, podcasts on adoption, there's wonderful ones out there. So I'm not saying anything negative about those. I just wanted to present a different viewpoint because there is a lot of trauma talk when people talk about adoption. There is a lot of negative and the bad side of not reunifying families, but adoption. There's a lot of the clinical, like therapists like me, where you can talk about reactive attachment and oppositional defiance and trauma and all these big scary words. I want to take my knowledge as an adoptive person, an adopted mom a therapist, the trifecta, and really put that into the joy of adoption. And so my podcast is Shining Stories, embracing the sunshine of adoption, because in all the hard, in all the trauma, in all those feelings of abandonment or where did I come from, all these very natural thoughts that adopted people have, there's also a lot of joy and a lot of sunshine that even comes from some of the difficult times. So my hope is, as I'm kind of building this and working on ideas for episodes, I really wanted to present a realistic story from adoptive parents, adoptees, very realistic, good and bad, but kind of always bring it back to, okay, where's your strength? What'd you learn? What was the joy, that
Yeah.
came out of that and made you who you are today? So I'm hoping to have that very soon, next couple months, with, episodes and guests and all the things. Just, I'm excited about it.
That's super cool. I love that. I think, the world needs more joy, right? The
Yes,
happy.
absolutely. Needs more sunshine.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I think is fun to talk about with my guests is I find that a lot of people that end up writing a book, they have gone through like a professional journey. um, so I know that you've had a few different jobs, and I want to get into kind of more of them because some of them are kind of fun. But tell me a little bit about too, because I find this kind of personally interesting. Um, you were a therapist, and I don't think that you're really seeing clients anymore right now. Is that right?
Yeah, just a handful. I
Just
really kind of semi-retired.
right, right, and I think a little piece of that was sort of starting to really pursue the writing and the books and whatnot.
Hmm.
But I feel like because being a therapist is such an emotionally demanding job, it can kind of it certainly is taxing and leads to burnout frequently. So I'd love to hear you kind of just talk about sort of what like was there a straw that broke the camel's back that made you go, oh, okay, I'm gonna just be like semi-retired, or was it just sort of a many years accumulation of talking about trauma and being like,
Right,
I'm over it.
right.
Not over it. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's
just
kind
kind of
of
too
a,
negative. I don't like that I said over it and I want to change myself.
where's the
But like,
sunshine, Nicholas? Come on, find the
y-
sunshine.
right,
That's
right.
amazing.
Yeah. But
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's a two-part answer, definitely, because therapy is a lot. And when
Right.
you're sitting and listening normally to tough things, hard things, watching people struggle, you definitely need great self-care and coping skills so that you don't just live in that empathy and live in that. It can lead to burnout so fast. So I was pretty good at managing my time, my schedule, protecting my, days off and things like that. So that part of it I handled. And while yes, I felt burnout at times, I was always able to kind of regroup, redo my schedule, give myself a little more time off. So that didn't really lead to it. In
Hmm.
the midst of all of this though, I do have a chronic illness. I have lupus, and I have really, managed it well until good old COVID 2020.
Mm.
I pretty much was in remission until then, and then it just came back full force after I got COVID. And one of the treatments for lupus is chemotherapy. So I'm on that. I'm on these infusions, and it just got harder and harder and harder to manage my clients, to give them the best of me, to really attend to them and be present for them, to manage my office space, my physical office, because it's like I had to, clean it and take care of it and decorate it and stay up on that stuff. And then just myself. I mean, not to mention, shoot, I don't even put in there my husband, my kids, my family, like all of that. I felt like I was failing at all of it. I wasn't doing anything well. I just really was treading water at best. Some days, questionable. So it really was a decision of I can't keep doing this. Like I I just can't. I'm not showing up like I should be. I was canceling a lot, which is not who I am.
Hmm.
And I felt terrible all the time. I just felt like sick and tired. And So yeah, it was really, that was the straw of me just really realizing I show up for these people and then I rest all weekend, I sleep all weekend, I do all these things, and then I show up again for these people. And I can remember it was my youngest son came home from college for a weekend and I was wiped out. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. And he's like, I love you, mom, but you got to give this energy to us too. And, it's like it kind of hit me at first, like, I know, but I have to work and all this. But when I really sat and thought about it, it's like, God, kid, you're right. You're absolutely right. What am I
Wow.
doing? Like, this is not, this is backwards of where my priorities are. But I'm a therapist. You can't take it out of you. You can't just stop. And so I do really maintain just a small amount of clients, whether it's in the area of adoption or parenting. I really try to maintain just those few people that I know it's not something that needs that intensive, but it's something that they need the support, and I can handle that. So I think I found a good balance of just caring for myself and then also being able to show up and tend to other people as a therapist. But it was that idea of knowing I was backing off of work that allowed me the time to really start focusing on Bandit and Pablo. I've been talking about it for forever.
I
Um,
bet. I bet.
Forever
As
I've
so
been
many
talking about
writers
it.
have been talking about their ideas forever. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, we have a mutual friend, Laura Long, and I've been talking to her about it forever. And last year we went on a retreat to Charleston, and it was her who just said, just write a shitty first draft. Just do it. Just right now, go do it. And it's like, well, I'm not at home. I'm on the beach. Like, okay. And voila, I did it. Here we are.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I didn't know that you wrote that shitty first draft at the retreat. That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
especially cool. Also, kudos to your son. As you know, I work with a lot of therapists in my day job. So another
Hmm.
therapist that I know, like, kind of her go-to is like ask for what you need. You know, you need to like if you're not asking for what you need, you're not gonna get it.
Right.
Kudos to
Right.
your son to be like, mom, you need to give us some of the energy too. Like, wow, like, yeah. I mean, as you said, he's right, but like, kind of amazing to ask so clearly, so directly, and to
Right.
be so self-aware for him to know that he needs that too.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Shout out to Alex.
I guess you did a good job as a
Yeah.
mom or something, maybe.
I don't
Maybe he learned
know. I hope.
it. Okay. So like I said, a lot of authors kind of go through this interesting professional journey, and I asked you about all the different jobs you have. So I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Let's go back to we're gonna go through these. Pizza
Okay.
delivery person. I delivered Chinese food for a while, and I actually thought
Hey.
it was a lot of fun while I did it. I just stopped because, as I like to joke, there's not a lot of upward mobility in China Garden. But what
Right.
what was your experience delivering pizzas? Did you like it, or was it like kind of a drag that you were just doing because it was a paycheck, or what did you think?
Well, I mean, in my wisdom of 16 and 17 years old, I
Yeah.
mean, I thought it was pretty cool that I got to drive around in my awesome, Honda Accord. And
Right.
so I think I liked it. Now I also could remember, my mom, God rest her soul, was
Hmm.
scared to death every time I went to a strange person's house and rang the doorbell.
That's funny.
So my parents did not like that job, but yeah, I thought it was fun. It's like you didn't have to just be stuck inside all the time until it was raining, snowing,
Yeah, yeah.
something awful weather. But
Then
no, it was a good first job. It
yeah,
really was.
less fun and awful weather. Do you have any horror stories of while you were doing the police delivery, like get stuck anywhere, run out of gas, or maybe someone that was a real jerk when you gave the pizza? Or
The only one I really truly remember is I got a flat tire on the
mm-hmm,
way to somebody's house for the delivery. And so
mm-hmm.
I have this pizza, I have this flat tire, I'm stuck.
Yeah,
They sent another pizza. Like I called work. I had to walk to a gas station to make a phone call because we didn't have cell phones. And the pizza side of it all got taken, worked out. But here I'm waiting, waiting, waiting for, someone to
truck.
come change my tire as my poor innocent 17-year-old self was helpless. And I ended up giving the pizza to the tow truck guy. It's like, well, here, have a pizza.
I was wondering if you ate it while you were waiting.
No, I gave it to him. It's like, here, enjoy, have a pizza. Made his day, That's the only story I can really remember. Not much of a horror story, but definitely a situation.
I was doing food delivery in like my early to mid 20s, so I was a little bit older than when you were doing it. So, but I imagine if I would have terrified your mom because there were 2 instances where actually someone kind of like pulled a gun on me while I was trying to deliver pizza. Right? That was yeah. One of them was kind of weird. It was very stormy, and I got the addresses mixed up because both of the mailboxes were on one side of the street. So I went to the house that was on the wrong side of the street, and I was like banging on the door because it was really stormy. God. Yeah, and the guy just like puts the gun on the window like by the door, and I was like, "Bye,"
Bye, see ya.
Yeah, I'll keep the Chinese food, not worth it, Yeah. So yeah, I think your mom would have been terrified. But anyway. Away
so
from
that was the
stories.
same. That was the same employer. I don't know if you have this on your list. If you don't, then I'm really divulging something I shouldn't. But that was the same employer that I was a birthday clown and did birthday parties.
Yeah, was the pizza shop owner was the.
Yeah. It was a pizza and ice cream parlor. So Happy Joe's. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But...
Okay, so sometimes you deliver the pizza, sometimes they come in and you get the clown suit on.
Yes.
That's pretty fun. That's all right. So that one seems like that was probably like a good time because you get to play with the kids and stuff, right?
I mean, I really kind of loved it. And I think I developed my skill that made me really good at being a therapist because I remember a lot. I developed a skill back then of remembering 20 kids' names. And that has served me well throughout my whole life of my memory. But no, I loved it. I made up games, I just had fun with them. By night, I delivered pizzas. By day, I sang happy birthday and scooped out ice cream. So.
By day, she's a birthday clown, and by night, she's a pizza delivery person. It's Katie Kibort-Gibbons. Nice. All right. Then you took a turn for the not as fun because you were an accountant for a while.
I was. Still fun. Numbers can be fun.
Sure.
Yeah, I went through college, got a degree in psychology. My dad said, okay, now you need a degree that you can actually get a job with. And it's like, well, math was always easy for me. So I did. I got an accounting degree, which landed me a super fun job. I worked a little while just in the boring accounting, but ended up using that degree to become a federal agent for the Treasury Department. So that was exciting.
See, that sounds pretty. I feel like somehow you need to incorporate that into like your classroom readings, being like former federal agent, like.
Well, I mean, just your intro for the pizza delivery is exciting. Like, I should use that.
There we go. Yep. But it's the birthday clown by day, pizza delivery by night, and then federal agent Katie Kibort-Gibbons. Yeah.
Well, I got that job because I was the president of the accounting fraternity at St. Louis University, and our guest speaker was the chief of the criminal investigation division of the Internal Revenue Service. And so I had to go meet him at the door to let him in. And when I saw him with his badge and his gun and everything, I said, God, I love Charlie's Angels. I'd be so good at that job. And he gave me his card, and by Monday I had an internship till I graduated. So,
oh, wow.
I know. So kids, sometimes your personality comes through for you.
Right? That's awesome. That's so funny. So yeah, like with the IRS, so you were like looking for white collar crime and that sort of thing, I imagine.
Yeah, drugs, money laundering, tax evasion.
Yep.
All that fun stuff.
All that good times. So how long did you do that?
About 10 years from internship to, I actually ended up leaving because I was diagnosed with lupus and had just a ton of health problems. And again, it's like, I can't do this. Who am I kidding? And so, yeah,
none of the Charlie's Angels had lupus.
Right? That's false advertising on that show. Nobody had a chronic illness. I wasn't prepared.
That's
But it
funny.
just kind of worked out for the best in the sense that then I got married, adopted my boys. I was able to be home with them, and so I try not to look back again. Me and my sunshine. I try not to look back as like, oh man, imagine what life would be if I had done that. I did a lot of fun,
Right.
traveled the country, fun, exciting things. Presidential details, kind of all that kind of stuff. But
Cool. Wow.
I also
Wow.
was in my 20s and, it was the time to do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's pretty rad though.
pretty
That's
well. That's
I try to have the
I
same
try to
mindset
say
though, you
mindset
know,
though,
like mistakes and warts and all, it's led us to where we are now, and that's not such a
right,
bad place, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then of course you were a therapist, and how long were you doing that? A while.
A while. So, like all stories, there was divorce in my life, and I knew it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back to work. Didn't really want to go back to accounting, and with working as a federal agent and just my personality, I've always been a good listener, always good at talking with people, always kind of wanted to be a child psychologist originally when I went to college. And so I started just looking into getting like what did I need to become a child therapist. And it was just a matter of, getting my master's degree. I say that like it was some easy task.
Yeah, just
Just a matter of
just a
getting my
matter. That's all.
master's.
Easy.
I ended up
Show up for a
getting
little bit.
two, right. But yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, my kids are, in middle school. I can do this. And I did. And it was hard, but boy, so worth it. Just, I have enjoyed so much. I started in the schools. So I worked as like a crisis counselor, professional school counselor for 5 years. And then I moved into private practice and
That's super cool.
I've loved it. Loved it.
I imagine that somewhere down the line of Pablo and Bandit, I think I'll be surprised if you don't work in a character with some kind of chronic illness at some point, which that'll be
Yeah.
cool.
That would
Uh,
that would be very cool.
but I feel like you also now need to work in like a federal agent character too. But
Bandit and
anyway.
Pablo in the wrong place at the wrong time. They
You're the
walk into
bandit we're
some
looking
drug
for. No,
bust.
it wasn't me. Like, that's funny.
That
Yeah.
sounds. I will dedicate that book to you. That's a great idea.
That's funny. All right. Yeah, it's cool that yeah, you kind of had all these life experiences as we all do, because yeah,
Right,
life is crazy. And then but it's neat to be able to draw on that and work it into the stories, right?
right.
So sorry. Um I know that you're into psychological thrillers, but of course, lots of other media out there in the
Mhm.
world. So just tell me some of, kind of closing thoughts. I want to hear some of your favorite media that you've either watched or read or listened to, whatever, recently, things that you'd recommend, be it movies, TV shows, books, anything.
Oh my gosh.
I know,
Um,
right? There's so
I
much good
do
stuff
since
out
I
there.
was little. Here's my guilty pleasure. Ever since I was little, I have loved scary movies. Love
Oh,
them.
okay.
I love being scared. I love watching. I love the jump scares. So anytime I have a chance, I always kind of check out the newest one or one I haven't seen. And so I just
Hmm.
last night with my daughter watched The Other Side of the Door, and it was good. It was good. So that was a scary movie. Um, I just finished Clickbait on Netflix,
Hmm.
kind of a psychological whodunit. Excellent.
Oh, interesting.
Very
Okay.
good. Yeah. Um, I think I've probably read every Stephen King and Dean Koontz book out there. Those are my go-to on an airplane, like my go-to books.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I do so much research for now this podcast I'm trying to build that the podcasts I listen to are very adoption focused. And so there's a few that I go to that are kind of like, um, Two Girls, One Ghost, I like, Scare podcast, I like. Those are all ones. But
Nice.
pretty much lately, it's been a lot of research. So I haven't really delved into a good like book for enjoyment. It's been just a lot of reading. But you made me start thinking about that. And I definitely need a book to just kind of spend my evenings reading when I'm done with work.
It's always good. Yeah, right? That's a perfect thing to have in the evening. Especially too. Do you ever read on a Kindle or do you always read like paperbacks or something?
I try to read a paperback. I'm old fashioned that way. I like
Yeah.
turning pages.
No, that's totally fair. I love my Kindle because it has the backlight and like I can like read it in bed and not bother anyone, you
Yeah,
know? But yeah. Yeah. Reading's the way to go at the end of the day, everyone.
it really is. Too many people like get on their phone, and I mean, every
Hmm.
now and then I'm a victim to that too. And it's like, what am I doing? Like, this is not good for my brain.
Yep. Doom scrolling. No good.
Right.
um,
Right.
well, so when can we expect book two?
Oh, I'm hoping by summer. That's my hope. If I can do a shameless plug, I do have a coloring book, activity book coming out that my illustrator did, and I mean, okay, I'm going to give you a sneak peek.
Ooh,
Look how
oh,
cute
I love it.
Bandit and Pablo in outer space.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
cute. So yeah, that should be out in the next probably 4 or 5 weeks on Amazon. So I'm really excited about that. My friends behind me, I also did a lot of stickers and just bookmarks, mugs, things like that for when I do some of these more publicity based things. I have some little giveaways, little handouts, but book two, I'm hoping by the end of summer. It should be out and fingers
Very
crossed.
nice. That's exciting. Uh, my almost 3-year-old loves to color, so I had to pick up one of the coloring books. That'll be fun.
Oh, yes. I will let you know when it is out.
Cool. All right. So hopefully end of summer, and of course you can pick up book one. It's on Amazon. And where can people find and follow you online? You've got your Facebook page, and they can find you on Amazon, right?
Yes. Amazon, my Facebook page, katieshiningstories.com, my website, that's on there. And yeah, Amazon's the best place to get the book right now. I hope to have it, embedded in other things, but right now, Amazon is the best. Hardback and soft paperback.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been fun to talk with you again.
It has been great to talk with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you for watching. You can follow me, of course, at my website. Links in the description. And if no one's told you today, you're an absolute legend.